Many of you watching this video right now can't fathom or understand how this one thing is going to fundamentally change the world, just like the internet did in the early 90s. But we're going to talk about it today. Hey everyone, my name is Jeremy, and if you want to follow along my journey as I build wealth for my family, then subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you don't miss a thing. Remember, none of this is intended to be financial advice. I am merely a guy sitting in front of a computer talking to a camera. Let's get to it. In 1995, there was an article published in Newsweek that said the internet will fail. So obviously, looking back on that now, almost 25 years later, we can all look at that and say that was just the craziest, dumbest comment that somebody ever made. And it's interesting because right now, if you read through this, the guy that wrote the article, his name was Clifford Stoll. There's an interesting quote here from him, and he says, "Of my many mistakes, flubs, and howlers, few have been as public as my 1995 howler. Wrong? Yep. At that time, I was trying to speak against the tide of futuristic commentary on how the internet will solve our problems. Gives me pause. Most of my screw-ups have had limited publicity, and as I've laughed at others' foibles, I think back to some of my own cringeworthy contributions. Now, whatever I think, I know what's happening. I temper my thoughts. Might be wrong, Cliff. Warm cheers to all. Cliff Stoll on a rainy Friday afternoon in Oakland." This is the guy who said that the internet is going to fail. And so the whole story behind this video is NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and more importantly, smart contracts on the blockchain. I can guarantee you that there are some people out there right now watching this video that are saying, NFTs, what is the point of that? I don't understand. I can just copy and paste that picture and put it on my profile just the same. And so you truly don't understand what NFTs are, or what smart contracts are or will be in the future, just like old Cliff didn't quite understand what the internet was. But I'm going to try to break it down a little bit today so that it makes a little more sense. So here is why, or some of the reasons why I think that NFTs are really going to really change the world. Let's think about one example. This is one example. We're not going to talk about all the examples. We're going to talk about this one and maybe a few as we go on. And that is the process of buying a house. So right now, there's a process where you go to a real estate broker and you say, hey, I want to sell my house. And they say, okay, great. We're going to sell it and we're going to take X percentage of commission. Let's say they're going to take 6% commission. It's usually what it is, at least in these parts. They put it on the MLS and they start to advertise it. And so there is clearly a seller. These are all the different people that are involved with this transaction. There's a buyer. There's usually an agent on the seller side. There's usually an agent on the buyer side. And finally, the seller and the buyer come to an agreement and they create a contract. And that contract spells out typically the purchase price, whatever it might be. Let's call it $100,000, which I know is insanity right now. It's much more than that. And it also spells out that there is going to be a 3% commission to this agent and a 3% commission to this agent. And then there might be some other things in there as far as who pays for what and all that good stuff. Then this whole contract gets sent to a title company. Now, here's what the title company does. Title company takes that contract, reads through all the details of it, and they are the neutral third party to make sure that whenever the buyer sends money, the seller gets that money, and whenever the seller signs over the deed, the buyer gets that deed. They're going to look through and make sure that there are no liens on the property, that the seller doesn't have, let's say, a second mortgage that he didn't disclose, that there's no fines for not paying back taxes. They're going to check and make sure there's no fines from the county for maybe an overgrown lot. So they're going to go through and make sure that there's nothing encumbering that property. Then they're going to issue title insurance. So now you can see all the different parties that we have involved. We have a seller, we have a buyer, we have two agents, we have a title company, and we typically have a title insurance company. And then you can actually even say that there is a county or municipality if it's in a city, because they're ensuring that there's no liens on it. And you can see why it's important to have a title company in these transactions to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So the title company checks there's no back taxes, there's no liens, and they issue title insurance. Then they have the seller complete a warranty deed or some sort of deed, depending on if it's trustee deed or whatever it might be. So they fill that out, have it notarized, and they send it back to title. At the same time, the buyer wires the $100,000 to the title company. The title company processes the transaction. They then come down here a little bit. Title company then takes in that $100,000. Title company takes in the deed, and then it sends the deed to the buyer. It records the deed with the county. Then it sends the buyer's agent their $3,000 because they get 3% of that 6% typically. Then they send the seller's agent their $3,000. Then they take out any other fees as far as title insurance. They take out any taxes. They take out any HOA fees that might exist. They take all that out. And then they send the remainder to the seller. Let's say in this case it's $92,000. And the title company is responsible for making sure that all of this happens seamlessly, effortlessly, and that they are a third-party neutral contact. So you're probably watching all this and you're saying, what in the world does any of this have to do with NFTs? Here we go. NFTs and smart contracts. Very similar things, and they are the future. With an NFT and a smart contract, you basically eliminate the title company completely. Everything is done on the blockchain without having any extra overhead or fees. So here's how it would work. The county, in this case, would issue NFTs or non-fungible tokens that would represent a deed to a particular property. So here's the county, and they issue an NFT that represents a specific parcel. And if you are the owner right now, when they initially set all of this up, then you would gain control of this deed NFT. Now, let's say that you want to sell, okay? Right now, there are a ton of NFT marketplaces, OpenSea and a bunch of others. Likely what would happen would be there would be new marketplaces that pop up to specifically manage these transactions through the use of smart contracts. So here's how it would work. You would advertise your particular property. It could still even be done the same way that it is right now, with an agent, and there would be a buyer agent, seller agent, anything like that. Now, what would happen is there would be this smart contract platform somewhere, and the owner of this deed, once they agree, and they still would agree to the terms of the contract, all of those terms would be written into this smart contract. That would be as far as who pays what the commission percentage is. All right, so this is 6%. If there's a seller agent, it would be 3%, 3%. All of that gets written in. The seller pays for title insurance. All that happens. Now, there would be a title insurance company somewhere. And so we have the buyer and seller. So we still have now, instead of having a title company, each individual person is separated. Any liens that the county would ever put on the property, the way that these NFTs would be written is they would actually apply those liens to the deed itself. So it would be a special NFT that the county would have the ability to write to. And so they would write any back taxes and any liens directly to the deed. There would be no reason to go to a title company because the buyer would be able to see any liens just by looking at the NFT. Be a public NFT, they could look and see that there's $300 owed on taxes and there's a overgrown lot lien of $300. So there's $600 that are owed there. Title insurance company really doesn't even need to exist because whoever owns the NFT owns the NFT, and any liens or taxes are listed right on it. So there really is no need to insure the property because mere ownership of the NFT is ownership. So we have eliminated at this point a title company and the title insurance company. And what's called an abstractor, somebody who basically, sometimes it's the same as the insurance provider, but they go and actually do the research on the property to make sure there are no liens on it. Even written into this deed could be things like easements and other things that are currently recorded at the county. All of that stuff could be combined onto the deed NFT so that's all in one place. And whenever that NFT gets transferred, all that comes along with it. So there really is no need for any of this. So now what the owner, let me scroll down here. So now what we're left with is a deed NFT. We have a buyer, seller, to have two agents or one agent depending on how it is. And we've got this smart contract that has all the details of the transaction written into it. And so the buyer sends their NFT to this smart contract. The seller sends their money, however much it is, to the smart contract. The agent adds their wallet address to the smart contract, and once all of these pieces have been completed, the smart contract does everything else. It sends the deed out to the seller, it sends each agent their commission, and it sends whatever is left over back to the buyer. And then this smart contract goes away. And all of this could happen in a matter of seconds, really, especially if you're doing it on something, if a platform gets developed like OpenSea, then you could literally push all of this out in a matter of mere seconds. And this is just one implementation of NFTs. Then you've got to think about tickets. You could have an NFT for a ticket that gains you access to an airplane. It could gain you access to a concert, gain you access to a movie, anything like that could be NFTs, and you could redeem them. Maybe the way the NFTs are written, it can only be redeemed once, or maybe in place of a movie, it gives you a lifetime. You can watch that movie, you buy it basically. Instead of it being a rental, you buy it. You could also have NFTs give you access to an Airbnb. So maybe when you buy an Airbnb, it gives you an NFT for a particular date. So this date, you get an NFT and it gives you access to the property from January 5th to January 14th. And you go to that Airbnb, there is a smart lock on the front, and all you do is show your NFT, and it validates that based on your private key in your wallet. And if it's a legitimate NFT, then it authorizes and opens up that door. And once January 14th runs out, then that NFT no longer gives you access to that. It could be the exact same thing with a rental property. Maybe that rental property gives you access for a year. Or maybe you have a business and you are renting shared office space. Shared office space, then you could gain access to a conference room for a particular day. Or coming down a little bit further, what about ride sharing? Maybe somebody comes up with a fleet of vehicles that are sort of like the scooters that are floating around in different cities. Instead, there are cars floating around all over the place, and you purchase an NFT for a subscription, and that gives you access to the fleet of vehicles for a month or a year or whatever the time is, or a certain number of miles that you could drive. And so you just walk up to any car and authenticate with your NFT using your private key. Now, you like my car? Such a good drawer. Now you have access to drive that car for any period of time. I know there are some of you out there that think NFTs are a fad and they are going away, but I can assure you right now that NFTs are not going anywhere. NFTs are here to stay. NFTs are the future. And mark my words, every single one of you that are watching this video will own an NFT at some point in your life. Thanks so much for watching this video. Consider joining the email list below. I send out a lot of great content there. If you haven't seen my other video on NFTs, I'm going to link it right over here. Go check that one out. I'll see you over there.